It was February 11th, 1990. Tokyo, the capital of Japan. A man with the name James Douglas stood in front of a mirror in his restroom. He wasn't there to check on his stance. He wasn't there to enjoy his beauty. He was there with a question in mind. He asked himself, am I ready? Am I ready to beat the undefeated, the undisputed Mike Tyson? And when he looked into that mirror, he saw the image of a man. The image of a man who had lost his mother 20 days ago. Before her demise, she had gone around telling everyone that her son would defeat the undefeated Mike Tyson. The fight began. And as expected, Mike Tyson dominated the fight. In fact, in round 8, Mike Tyson threw a very heavy uppercut that James Douglas was knocked over cold. No man had ever woken up once they were knocked over by Mike Tyson. When the count reached 9 with 1 count remaining, defying all odds, James Douglas stood back up and said, I am ready to defeat him. And in the round 8, in round 10, he knocked out the undefeated Mike Tyson. Before the fight, when he looked at himself, he just didn't see a reflection of himself. He saw a battle between his fear and his fire. Psychologists like Sigmund Freud would call this the clash between id, ego, and superego. Id screams to give up. Superego reminds you of your promises. And in between these two is your ego. Ego is you, and you decide whom you are to become. Because sometimes our battle isn't with our opponents. It is within ourselves. It is who we are versus who we see. James Douglas didn't see reality that day. He saw what he wanted to see. He saw a champion in himself. And sometimes those moments of self-reflection are enough to make or break a person. All our life, we've been told to be competitive in life, to progress in life, to move up in life, to move up that ladder. But maybe our life doesn't work in a straight line. Maybe our life isn't a ladder. Maybe it's a ring. The specialty of a ring? It's about showing up round after round, even after you've been brutally hit, even after you've been brutally injured. You still have to come up to fight again the next round. In boxing, some rounds you win, some you lose. And there are some rounds which are too big for you to conquer, yet too small for your ego to be conquered. And those moments, those rounds are all about hanging on. Because our life isn't just a T20 match. It is a test match. It's not about hitting those big boundaries. It's about staying in that crease. And just like Test cricket has a second innings, so does life. Our life always gives us a second chance. Just make sure you're ready for it. You're padded up to come up and bat up again. As Jerin once said, success has taught me nothing. All it gave me was some momentary pleasure. But failure has taught me everything I am. Whatever you see of who I am is what my failure has made me. We've all been made to believe that failure is the opposite of success. But let me tell you, it is not. Quitting is the opposite of success. Lionel Messi. It took him 841 days to score his first ever UEFA Champions League goal. A.B. de Villiers, the man termed as the greatest batsman our era has ever seen. He does not even have a single international trophy to show for himself. Yet he is termed the best. So maybe success isn't in that trophies. Success is in giving your 100% even if you lose, not focusing on those results. Success is in consistency. In consistency? Consistency always lurks in the shadows. It's not seen in those highlight reels. When I was a kid, I had a dream. My brother had scored 97% in his board exams in class 10. Everyone thought that it was unbreakable. But the second standard kid in me believed that I could break it. 8 years later, when I reached 10th standard, that fire still stayed in me. I didn't battle to be on top. I didn't battle the outcome. I chose to become the best version of myself, regardless the result. And when that result came, I had scored 97.4 percentage, 0.4 percentage more than my brother. When everyone gave up a lot of their sleep to study the nights before exam, I slept 10 hours before each and every board exam. Everyone pushed too hard at the end, but I was focused on steadying my ship from the beginning. That's the thing about consistency. It doesn't scream. It doesn't brag. It doesn't shout. It just shows up. Just like those quiet nights when no one was watching. It's not that firework, it's that spark. It's a candle that you light each and every day. And after those results, I realized something more deeper. The world only sees a tip of who we are. Just like an iceberg. Only 10% is visible to the outer world. The world saw me studying, scoring good, happy, smiling. But no one saw what was beneath that water surface, that 90% beneath that water surface. The nights where I couldn't sleep, the urge to quit, the nights where I questioned myself. No one ever saw that. And more often, even we forget to look beneath that surface. Even we do not see what is beneath our surface. We only see what the world sees in us. And if we never look beneath that surface, if we never explore our 90%, you will never know who we are or who you are capable of becoming. Because you will start seeing yourself from the eyes of the world. And when you have a setback, the world will start criticizing you, and eventually you will start criticizing yourself. Setbacks, they're common. Everyone falls. Everyone fails. I am a kickboxer, and I remember my first fight. When I stepped into that ring, I was facing a far more experienced opponent than me. But as those fights started, I showed that I was a better fighter, faster, stronger, and technically skilled. But as those rounds wore on, my stamina began to fade. And that one factor played against me so hard that I ended up losing that fight. I had lost that fight. But do you know what I did right after that? I made sure I'd go to train the very next day. I saw the videos where I had fallen, and I saw where I had gone wrong and started working on myself. Because it's not about how far you've fallen, it's about how far you're willing to climb back up again. And as I stand before you today, 26 days later, I will be fighting that same man once more. But this time, I know I won't lose. Because I didn't let that failure define who I was or who I am capable of becoming. Because your life, it never tests your success. It tests your responses. Psychologists like Pavlov would call this the classical conditioning. I see puzzle faces right now, so I'll just explain what classical conditioning is. Classical conditioning is where a human being has been trained to react to certain changes in the environment. We have been trained from childhood to react to failure in a certain way, punishments in a certain way, success in a certain way. For example, if you are met with shame with every failure you had in your life, you'll obviously be ready to retract the moment you sense failure. But here's the thing. You can recondition yourself. You can retrain yourself. You can train yourself to get back up and try again to give yourself one more chance. Just like Conor McGregor once said, if you have the courage to think it up here, believe it down here, and speak it out through here, anything is possible. Because perspective isn't the lens that you use to see the world. It is a mirror that you choose to believe. Now, just ask yourself a question. Am I seeing myself through the eyes of the world or through the truth, effort, and resilience? Because you cannot fight like a champion if you see yourself just as a contender. As I already said, perspective isn't a lens that you use to see the world. It is a mirror that you choose to believe in. And often, that mirror lies. It shows your flaws, not your fire, your scars, not your strength. And when life tries to pull you down, do not look for that next step to climb. Look for that next round to fight. Because your life, it isn't a ladder, it is a ring. It's not always about moving upwards, it's about moving forward. Round after round, fall after fall, comebacks after comebacks. And sometimes victory isn't in that knockout punch. It is in standing up and getting back on the saddle and fighting again when the world thought you couldn't. Thank you.